other people see my vulnerability as a weakness. They see it as a flaw. And a lot of people who make content online, they purposely don't want to build that type of relationship with people because they want to have a relationship with people where they come off as somebody higher or better than other people. Being online means I'm putting myself out here in a way that you don't do. So your relationship to me is special. So it's like people are like, in a way, creating that parasocial relationship that gets very confusing for people on purpose because they don't present themselves like natural, like regular humans. They're presenting themselves as something else, a level above. And that's why people start to build up these attachments and connections to these people on social media, just like they do with celebrities, because it's like that's how they're presenting themselves. They're not presenting themselves like any other human. And that's why for me, with my content and how I've always tried to present myself, I always thought it's important to show people that I am just a human. I'm just a human that wants to share content, that wants to put content out there. That's literally the only difference between me and you. Otherwise, we're the same thing. But a lot of, content creators, they know that you're not going to make money acting like you're just like everybody else. You're going to make money by making yourself look like you're way cooler than the average person. You're way more interesting than the average person. You have something special that the average person doesn't have. And when you add money into it, it just gives people even more incentive. Oh, I thought this was going to be a slide. That's why I was walking so slow. When you add money into it, it gives people even more incentive to be inauthentic, because now they know that they can be inauthentic and make tons of money. Who would not want that, But if you were like me and you're like on YouTube and stuff, like before money was even a factor, yeah, there's a lot of authenticity out there that I feel like we don't see as much anymore. It's just like gone, because you don't make money that way. you don't get really successful that way, at least commonly. So why would people be doing that? But in the past, people were just creating because they loved it. People just created content because they enjoyed it. They were passionate about it. You know what I mean? So like, now the motivations for making content have changed. There's obviously still people who make content with multiple motivations. Like, you can make content with the motivation of making money and because you're just passionate about sharing content. But in the beginning, it was only people making content that were just passionate. That was the way you make content, because there was no other way. There was no alternative outcome that can come out of it that anyone was aware of at the time. So I feel like since that's the case...
Okay, let's see what's causing this bad mood.
Since that's the case, it has really changed the way people treat other people on the internet. Their goal is to make themselves appear as somebody above, to make money, to succeed, and they benefit from those parasocial relationships. People are literally financially benefiting off of those parasocial relationships that they build up, So like, for instance, there's some Twitch streamers or like content creators who they know for a fact that the people who are following them, right? There are people who are following them who are obsessed with them and fall into this like unrealistic sense of a connection that's just this parasocial relationship that has just grown to an unreasonable level or extent. And they're benefiting financially from that being the case. So in their mind, their goal is to keep those people attached to a string. Like, like when you feed out like a string and like it's like a bait, and people are like, they have to go get to the bait. That's basically, they're trying to keep that parasocial relationship intact to an unhealthy extent, just enough, but they don't want the person invading their privacy. You know what I mean? They don't want the person digging too much into their lives, or doing too much, breaking their boundaries per se, right? And that's fair, that's respectable. But you're also literally exploiting the parasocial relationship that you know they have with you to make money. You're literally exploiting on that. You know that that's what's keeping that person here. The moment you tell them, "Hey, I don't really give a frick about you and you're weird and you need to stop having this relationship. Stop imagining this um fantasy relationship with me." You lose that person and you lose money and you lose popularity. You lose the success that you've built. So I feel like it's a two-way thing. Like everybody um yeah, like a lot of these people who are big and successful, they know what they're doing. They're taking advantage of these parasocial relationships. So in a way, if you're gonna do that, you're threading the waters. You're taking a risk, and you're inviting people to go to that level in a way. Obviously, that doesn't make it right. You know what I mean? Gotta make that clear because some people just don't understand when I'm saying stuff like this. That doesn't make it right for people to breach your boundaries. But at the same time, you're playing you're playing with a slippery slope. So there's always gonna be people that slide all the way down the hill and don't know how to keep themselves afloat. Don't know how to keep themselves uh, at a respectable place. And so I feel like it's a little bit both. You know, it's a little bit of both at the same time. You have viewers that get caught up in these parasocial relationships and they don't know they don't respect the boundaries of the content creators. And then technically the content creators aren't respecting the boundaries of these viewers because they're exploiting those emotional reactions that everybody has. But clearly for some people it gets a little too far in their head. And they're exploiting that. You know, they're exploiting that. That's a thing that people deal with online. That's a relationship that formulates, and it's something that you can manipulate and exploit and make a career off of. So like, I feel like, although I understand where Roberto Blake was coming from with the tweet, and just in case, once again, if you don't know what I'm talking about, you can just hit the topic thing, the topic command. Um, even though I understand where he's coming from, I do feel like it's more about finding a balance, being authentic online, but also not like exploiting the fact that people struggle with these parasocial relationships because this is not something that we are used to. This is a new concept that we're experiencing. We didn't have the internet in the past. We didn't have these type of relationships and these type of dynamics. And now that there's money involved, it gives people even more incentive to exploit people in that way. So, it's just like it's a mixture. To me, I can tell the difference between people who are I feel like I can tell the difference between people who are more authentic as a content creator and aren't just there to exploit these types of parasocial relationships that they know are formulating with their audience. But if you do exploit it, you most of the time you'll be really successful. And you know, since capitalism is a thing, it's like it's hard to blame you. It's hard to blame you, you know, because we need money to survive. But at the same time, I don't think I would ever want to go that route because I want to have authentic and meaningful relationships with my viewers, the people who I make content for. I don't see myself as better or above anybody else. So if I see someone start to idolize me like that, I'm going to be like, "No, you need to calm down. Like you're going a little too far." I would tell somebody, I would cut that off. And I've done that already with somebody. Like there's somebody what you remember Whit probably remembers the person. Hold on, let me just use some candy for a second. Okay, I'm gonna marker this because I'm gonna make this a clip because this is some good stuff. Like if I was a small viewer, like nearly 200 or less, they interact with their viewers. All I grew up on is get home before the sun goes down and get your A home before the street lights. Yeah, that's basically how I grew up too. So now that we have this whole new dynamic for relationships, there's a lot of psychological uh impacts that this has on people. And you know, it affects people's mental health. It affects how they see relationships. That's why we're running into a lot of these problems because this is a new thing and we have to figure out how how do we approach this? How do we do this in a healthy way? But we also got to be realistic that on both sides, there's a little bit of unhealthiness going on, you know? These people know what they're doing.